So because I've been playing live for over 30 years now, I've had my share of terrible gigs. There was one where I was in a country band and we played in a barn, and the dance floor had hay all over it. So people started to line dance and their boots were clanking on it, and all of a sudden all this dust started coming up, and I'm allergic to dust and hay and all that stuff, and so I suddenly couldn't breathe. So in between songs I had to run out and try to get a breath of fresh air and then come back and try to make it through the next song. There was another time when we played outdoors and it was nighttime, but it was still like 95 degrees and we're all sweating and our gear was acting up, and all of a sudden all the power went out. And as soon as the lights went down, the stage was swarmed with mosquitoes. So we're all like running, freaking out. So that was pretty bad. One time my old metal band even drove all the way to Chicago from Minneapolis, and we were underage, but the bar didn't know that. So they were gonna let us play. But the band that went on before us told on us, so they kicked us out, and we weren't even able to play a single note after driving that far for the show. And of course, I've had my share of playing in front of nobody, except for maybe the sound tech, and I even had a gun pulled on me one time during loadout, so it's been a crazy time. But I consider those shows to be terrible because of outward circumstances, things I didn't really have control of. But this last gig that I just had a couple days ago was really bad in my mind because of inner circumstances, things I could control, and that's what makes it so much worse to me. So here's what happened. I got to the gig. It was a show we were supposed to play a year and a half ago, but then COVID started, and the day of that show, it got canceled. So it's been up in the air for a long time. So there's a lot riding on it. I thought, okay, this is going to be awesome. There's all this anticipation for it. So we show up. It's a great venue. It's huge. The stage is gigantic. They have great lights, fog machines. The sound crew is awesome. Everything about it was shaping up to be a great gig. So the headlining band, they're called The Hype. They're awesome guys. Great band. They were getting done with their sound check. Oh, by the way, I bought one of their necklaces. I'll just pull it out for the rest of the video. They get done with their sound check and we start loading our gear on stage. So we sound check the monitors and then the front of house, and we're pretty much ready to play a full song for sound check. And I'm like, let's kick into What About Love, because that's actually the first song we're going to play at the show. It got to the solo and I completely botched the last note, which is hilarious because it's the only thing happening at that moment. The band stops, I hit this note, and then they come back in. I completely botched it. I went like this. And normally that's not a big deal, it's just sound check, we're having fun. I'm pretty much still getting used to this guitar. It's only my second gig playing it. So I just kind of chalked it up to that, For some reason that moment stuck with me and it started to haunt me. So we tore down, we went backstage, we're gonna wait for doors to open so the crowd would file in. And I just couldn't shake it. I don't know why, it just had this nervous energy all of a sudden. So I had a drink, I thought that would help, but it didn't. I looked out behind the curtain, I saw people filing in, sitting down. And this place has a weird layout where they actually just have chairs for people to sit in, but they also have these long cafeteria tables. So it's a really weird vibe. It's like when I walked on stage, it felt like instead of playing a rock show, I was about to give a TED Talk. Everyone just sitting there politely looking up. Now we're about to kick into the first tune, and I couldn't stop thinking about that damn note in that solo. So we hit the first chord, and the lights go on and everything's sounding great, and usually that's when all the anxiety leaves me. It's like my brain goes, okay, now it's time to rock, forget about all your worries, let's do this. But that didn't happen this time. Instead, my brain was torturing me and it was saying, Mike, this is the song that has that solo that you messed up in soundcheck. So I couldn't even enjoy the moment. I was like stuck in my head so bad. It was kind of like, you ever play something really well in your room and you can consistently nail a solo, but as soon as somebody walks in and watches you, suddenly you freeze up and you're not performing nearly as well as you could? That's the feeling I had. And so we're playing, I can't enjoy the music. I keep thinking, here comes the solo, here comes the solo. The solo comes, and I actually play the solo just fine. So I thought, okay, dodged a bullet, I can relax now a little bit and have some fun. Well, sadly, the very next song we play straight on, I made 2 giant mistakes in it. And after I made those 2 mistakes, by the way, they were big to me, but my band didn't even really notice it. But I look out and I really felt the eyeballs on me. I don't know if you felt that before as well, but everything just started to get to me. It was like snowballing. The worst part for me about getting stuck in my head is that I can't get lost in the music. Usually I can close my eyes and enjoy myself. I'm playing with my friends on stage. We're playing awesome music. Everything's great. And being stuck in my head forces me into this weird place where instead of getting lost in the music, I begin to scrutinize everything I do. So I'm no longer playing music, I'm playing this weird piece of wood with strings on it. And I'm thinking of every move I'm making. And I get into this really weird paralysis by analysis mode, and everything just feels way harder than it has to be. So it was weird because I look over and the band is rocking out, having a good time, and I just felt like I was in this weird anxiety bubble. And the crowd was actually very appreciative. You know, they clapped after the songs, and they seemed to be having a good time, but I just couldn't get there. So we played about 8 more songs, and I couldn't shake that feeling. I started to jump up and down to get rid of it. I ran to the other side of the stage and started rocking out with my bass player. That didn't help. And I found myself looking at the set list all the time and going, uh-oh, here comes that one song with that part that I sometimes mess up. It was a vicious cycle. And it wasn't until the last 2 songs that I finally found a way out of it. And that's a big reason I'm making this video, so that I could share these tips with you. So if this ever happens to you, hopefully these could help you as well. So sometime during the second to last song, my brain finally figured it out, like something clicked. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can always focus on my breathing. So I started to do that. So instead of thinking so much, I brought it down to here and I just started to breathe and I focused on that. And the next thing I did worked so well. I just started to repeat a phrase over and over again. And it was, it just doesn't matter. And if you guys have ever watched the movie Meatballs, Bill Murray's character starts to say that over and over again, and he gets a whole bunch of people to chant that, and all of a sudden they go out and they play relaxed and they all have a good time.
It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I tell you, it just doesn't matter.
That phrase helped me so much because I found myself relaxing and I started to laugh at everything. So if I made a little bit of a mistake or whatever, instead of tensing up and getting worked up over it, I would just sort of smile, laugh it off, and it really opened things up for me. And I know I'm completely projecting onto the crowd, but as soon as I started to loosen up a little bit and have fun, it seemed like they were doing that as well. So by the time we got to the last song, at least in my mind, everybody was having a great time. The last song we play is called Crazy on You, and it's such a fun tune, especially when you're in the zone. Like I finally got in that flow state, and I had the greatest time, and unfortunately it was during the last song. It took me an entire set to really figure it out. So we hit the last chord. The crowd cheers, we're all loose and feeling great. I'll play a quick clip. And as I started putting my gear away, I was like, oh man, if I could only start the show now, feeling the way I do now, it would be a whole different story for me. But the positive side is now that I've reminded myself of these little mental tricks, now I could use those right away at the start of my next show. And by the way, the band rocked the entire night. Like I said, it was just me and my own little weird bubble. I mean, people afterwards were coming up and they're just like, that was an awesome set, great job. And a lot of people were really appreciative of it. Some people might wonder how I can still get stuck in my head and have these issues, even though I've played for all these years. And I would say ask anyone who's done anything for a long period of time, you'll still have those off days once in a while. And because you've been doing it for a long period of time, those weird days happen less and less. So all of a sudden, when they do finally hit you again, sometimes you have to remind yourself and remember what it takes to get out of it. So let me know in the comment section if this has ever happened to you and how you got out of it. Maybe you have your own tips and tricks that you can share with me, and maybe we can help each other out of these awkward situations together. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll catch you at the next live stream or lesson or whatever I decide to do. All right, see ya. Bye.